The Garmin Edge 1040 Solar is, well, kind of a complex beast, which makes this thing a little frustrating. But there is one particular reason that I've used this device continuously over the last year for all of my bike packing trips. And in this video, we're going to talk about just that. Let's do it. So I will be the first to tell you that I was slightly daunted by this review for some time now, mainly because this device is so complex and I've really had a hard time getting used to the user interface. But then I was like, well, I don't need to do a full-on in-depth review. Go watch DC Rainmakers. He does a fantastic job on these in-depth reviews for head units. So instead, what I want to share with you is the essential parts of this device for bike packing. So battery life, the solar charging capabilities, routes, maps, and a little bit more. So that's what we're gonna do. Before we get into it any further, I'd like to let everybody know that this video is supported in part by Salsa Cycles. Salsa is adventure by bike. Salsa offers a range of mountain bikes, gravel bikes, all-road bikes, and fat tire bikes, all thoughtfully designed to enrich and enhance your cycling experiences. Salsa truly understands the transformative power of adventure by bike. So to discover more about their products, you can hit this card right here, or else find a link below. So the unit as a whole is one of the larger head units I've ever used, coming in at 59.3 by 117.6 by 20 millimeters. While it is sleeker than, say, the E-Trex, it will take up more real estate than the Wahoo Element Roam, Bolt, and Hammerhead Karoo 2, something to consider when adding things to your cockpit for your bike packing rig. That said, it comes with a larger 88.9 millimeter diagonal display, which I found to be really nice when viewing a map or simply navigating the device. So the overall weight of the 1040 Solar with silicone protector, safety lanyard, and a little bit of dirt is 150 grams, and the device uses a USB-C port to upload routes, update maps, and firmware. And yes, to charge the device, as no, you can't get by with just using the solar panels alone on this device. Maybe someday, but not yet. And that's a good segue. So the 1040 Solar was launched back in the summer of 2022. And despite Garmin using solar tech in their watches, this was the first time it was adopted into their cycling head units. Since the launch of the 1040 Solar, Garmin also brought this tech to the smaller 800 series last year, launching the 840 Solar. The difference between the two is pretty simple. The 1040 is a little larger, so it offers better battery life with a larger built-in battery and more solar surface area for the sun to juice up the device. So as you can see here, there are two main solar panels on the top and bottom of the device. These panels are made up of 100% photovoltaic levels, meaning they translate 100% of the sun's rays it receives to power. But hidden actually in the large screen is also solar glass with 15% photovoltaic levels. So basically this means less of the sun's rays are converted to energy, but it is a much larger area. So some folks were actually curious about how the solar glass looked versus a standard head unit glass, and I actually really couldn't tell the difference whatsoever. But I do know that the screen is very vibrant and stunning. Like many head units, the settings you use will dictate how long of a runtime you will get out of your device. Things such as GPS settings, how many sensors are paired and used with the device, brightness levels, if you're paired with a phone, following a route, and so on. Now, this is definitely more tangible when you don't have a solar feature like the 1040 Solar does, or if you simply never ride in the sun, but then there would be no use for this device if you found yourself in that situation. And if you don't plan on riding in the sun, there really is no use in spending an extra 150 USD for the solar version. To better understand solar capabilities, you need to understand lux, which is a standardized unit of measurement of light level intensity. So Garmin claims their battery lifetimes are used in 75,000 lux conditions. Without getting too much in the weeds here, all you really need to know is that you could likely get more than 75,000 or less than 75,000 depending on the time of year, tree and cloud cover, elevation, and so on. So testing this device over a year was helpful for me to understand really how this system works, during different times of the year. Obviously, in the winter, you will get less charge than in the summer when the sun is higher in the sky and touches the unit more often. So I tested the unit in a lot of different conditions this year, but I'm gonna really kind of hone in on 3 5-day trips that basically help me find the limits of this device. The first trip was in the first week of February in Arizona last year. Sun angle was low, but the full 5 days were basically in sunny conditions. However, there were a few days of light cloud cover. I was in Garmin's touring mode profile, which automatically uses the best accuracy satellite system. I also had it paired with my cell phone, and I was using the Garmin Messenger remote functionality. Following a route I had uploaded, and I had it on that map screen 99% of the time. So I needed to charge the device on the last day of the trip, and the total time of use before charging it was 43 hours, 19 minutes, and 19 seconds. And over that time frame, there were 4 hours and 2 minutes of ride time gained from solar charging. So fast forward to July, I went on another 5-day trip scouting the Sage and Saddles route with the same settings above, except I was in a less demanding GPS setting, and I disconnected my cell phone. Sun was abundant on this trip, obviously in the middle of summer, and we started just 2 weeks after the summer solstice. So the lowest elevation I was at on this particular trip was in Gunnison, Colorado, which sits at 7,800 feet, and the highest point was at 12,000 plus feet a few times. This was likely the best case scenario for this device, and it showed. I was amazed day after day at how much battery life I had left. So I didn't check what I ended at, as we quickly celebrated with some beer and pizza as we rolled back into Gunnison, and I forgot to look. But I do know that the device was on for 13 hours that day, and it didn't die. During the 5-day trip, I ended up gaining 10 hours and 27 minutes from solar charge, the most in one day being 2 hours and 49 minutes. Finally, the last trip I went on this year was October 19th through the 23rd on the Coconino bikepacking loop in central Arizona. So I was in touring mode with my phone and Garmin Messenger remote functionality paired, while also following a track on the map page. We were in a mix of shade, there was a day of smoke and sun, and the sun would rise really early in Arizona that time of the year, but often it would set very early. So we found ourselves riding at dusk quite a bit. I almost finished the route, but the battery died with roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes to go. So starting from 100% and then till it died, I got 43 hours, 52 minutes, and 15 seconds with the average solar intensity at 25% daily. Nothing special, but between the battery and extra juice from the sun, I nearly completed a 5-day route without charging in, I'd say, not so ideal conditions. All right, so outside of those trips, on many overnighters, 3-day trips, I had 0 issues with the battery life. But in my findings of those 5-day trips in Colorado and Arizona, where the sun, of course, is a little stronger and more frequent, I would say that you have a pretty good chance of not needing supplemental charging in the summer, whereas you should probably bring additional charging for winter, fall, spring months when the sun is maybe a little lower in the sky, or of course if you tend to ride in more cloudy conditions. So a few things that we can do to help increase battery life are obviously going with that standard GPS setting, as it is much less demanding on the battery. But the other thing is trying to get the rays of the sun to touch the device as consistently as possible. So Garmin actually provides 2 mounts, one which comes with a pivot so that you can actually move it based on the sun's orientation. The other thing you can do is simply just take the device off your mount and point the screen to the sun. I ended up laying it on my handlebar bag a few times when I was, say, climbing for an hour or so, and it would get some good juice that way. It is worth mentioning that the device needs to be in an activity for the solar functionality to work, contrary to what their website says. They say that it can just charge when the device is off. It can't. And finally, the last way to kind of get a little bit more juice is to buy their additional battery pack, which will give you an extra 24 hours. Something I would definitely consider if I was going to consistently use this on more multi-week trips. Now, there are a few things I should mention about routes and GPS. When I was in that normal GPS setting, I found that the GPS would actually think I was off route more times in this setting. So because of this, the device would kind of try and reroute me before the GPS found the route again. It's definitely not the end of the world, but it can be confusing if you are at a road or trail junction and that happens. However, you can customize reroute prompts, such as turning off auto reroute, which I highly suggest doing on the Garmin Connect app. But I have yet to find where I can actually do this on the device itself. Another example of how expansive this thing is. So now uploading routes, it's relatively easy. You can simply plug the device into your computer and manually drop either a GPX or TCX file into the device. There's another way to do this over the Garmin Connect app by downloading the Ride with GPS app or any app like Komoot or whatever you use via the Garmin IQ app, which is, yes, another app. It took me some time to figure this out as the routes wouldn't appear on the device unless I actually pinned the routes on my Ride with GPS account. And I'm not gonna lie, it was a little confusing at first to try to find the route, but after I figured it out, it was under the Controls sub menu and then in Find a Course. It is also found under Training and Planning, then Courses on the Garmin Connect app. But it's kind of ridiculous that the device and the Garmin Connect app are all categorized differently. But again, this is another example of Garmin's messy user interface. So the device does come with the option of loading worldwide maps, which are free, and they are consistently updated based on the number of times that I've been prompted to update the device via Garmin Express, which is Garmin's desktop-based app, yet another app. That updates the firmware and allows you to customize your maps based on the region that you are using the device in. The maps are nice and detailed, but if you really want a super detailed map, you can buy a wide variety of detailed topo maps from Garmin and upload them to the device. So while some folks mentioned that the new user interface from the 1040 over the 1030 is a significant update, coming from not using a Garmin device in, I don't know, like 5 years, with the Garmin Edge 520, it's still very confusing and definitely too busy for my liking. And like anything you use for a while, you get used to it, but there are still things I struggle to find on this device after a year of using it. So one thing I do appreciate is that the Garmin Connect app, you can actually edit the device on your phone, which is super easy. But then again, this is a super nice touch screen on the device. It's not too hard to do here either. But the app is certainly designed for, I'd say, my brain a little bit more than the head unit interface. That being said, I still prefer the on-device navigation of the Karoo 2 or the simple Wahoo app paired with the Element Roam or Bolt. All right, so just a few other things here. Speaking of touchscreen, if you are dripping sweat or find yourself in a downpour, you can turn off the feature by just simply pressing this button once and it locks the screen. And speaking of heat, don't trust the built-in temperature sensor as it's definitely 5 to sometimes 15 degrees off on the warm side. And on the cold side of things, I actually found this device to shut down randomly in sub-freezing temperatures. So it's definitely not a great unit for your next winter bike packing trip. So I definitely won't be getting rid of my Garmin eTrex anytime soon because of that. All right, so I left a lot out of this review, but I did so on purpose, as much of what this thing can do does not pertain to bike packing. That said, the Garmin Edge 1040 Solar is probably the most dynamic and detailed head unit I've ever used. And if you're into training and pairing all the sensors in the world and having supplemental data fields for those sensors, well, you're in luck. And this thing can do that and much, much more. But that's not the point of this video. I really wanted to share its potential use for bike packing. And I realized that the solar portion of the 1040 is not a gimmick. I estimate that I got a full day of battery life from solar on that trip this summer. My guess is if I was to, say, ride the Great Divide mountain bike route, I'd probably need to charge the device once every week, maybe every 6 days. And I would say this is only the beginning of GPS devices and solar tech being used in tandem. My guess is we will see Garmin launch a variety of more products with solar, improvements to this device right here, and some non-Garmin options which should drop the price point. But at the current moment, these devices are pretty darn expensive. The Garmin Edge 1040 Solar will run you $750 USD. All right, so I'd love to hear from you all. What do you think about devices like this coming with solar tech? Would you use it? Wouldn't you? Why? Let me know in the comment section below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. If you like what you saw in this video and want to see more like it, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And if you want to help support us a little bit more, you can do so by signing up for the Bikepacking Collective. The Collective offers a lot of awesome perks, including monthly giveaways and the twice yearly Bikepacking Journal. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more about the Bikepacking Collective and supporting bikePacking.com as a whole, you can click on this card in the top right corner or also find a link below. As always, thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, pedal further.